Well, howdy do, everybody. Welcome back to the Square the Circle music channel. I'm your host, Aaron Major. That's right, that's me. Here at the Square the Circle music channel, we talk about record collecting and music appreciation, amongst many other fun little topics here and there, salt and peppered into the mix. But primarily, we're going to go over things of the, licorice pizza persuasion. This one's kind of a special episode because I do this every Monday and we talk about all sorts of things, and I like to call this Tales from the Thrift. That's right, all of the gems that I found at the thrift store throughout the week, all those junk store gems. So let's get right into it, shall we, guys? I got some really fun stuff this week. Let's check it out. Let's check out my compact discs first and foremost. This is going to be a few selections here in the beginning that are items I'm not entirely familiar with. I should say groups, bands, individuals, artists that I'm really not that familiar with. This was an artist, or excuse me, a group that I kind of grew up hearing bits and pieces from, and they were all over the place in the 80s. They sang that Rio song, right? Duran Duran. Found just a interesting CD of Duran Duran, so I wanted to give him a shot, give him a spin. This is kind of like later career, I'm assuming. I think this was released in 1993, self-titled. So interesting. I'm interested to see what they did with their career in the 90s. Her name is Rio and she dances on the sand. That was Duran Duran, right? So whatever, maybe I'm wrong. But always excited to find stuff that's, perfectly, clean, flawless. So, yeah, give that a shot. Another artist that I'm really not all that familiar with. I had an old kind of fling from a long time ago, damn near 20 years ago now. But I was kind of seeing this gal for a while, who remains a good close friend. She was really into Ani DiFranco. Amongst a whole generation of women that were really into Ani DiFranco and her kind of like super how you could say, I guess, just really hippie, earthy, hyper liberal type of sensibilities and message and poetry and whatever you could say. But this looked interesting, and it's not a big old fat double disc, but it's got a bunch of music on it, and it has this really intriguing photo album book that comes with it. Pretty cool. Lots of really kind of intriguing, kind of risque, kind of interesting Polaroid moments in here to check out, I guess. Album's called Living in Clip. Living in Clip. I'm not really sure what that means. So, but yeah, lots of music, and it actually is a double disc. So, I'll give it a try. See what it's all about. See what all the hullabaloo is all about. I'm 20 years too late, right? And here's another one. I promised you guys that I would really, like I said, broaden my horizons, really kind of branch out, try new things that I normally wouldn't give two shits about. Anyone that's been watching my channel for any time at all knows that I'm not a big fan of hip-hop music. I'm not a fan at all, actually, of hip-hop. I've never listened to hip-hop, which is kind of bizarre, honestly, because it was so incredibly popular in the late 80s, early 90s, when I was coming into, I guess you could say young adulthood, into my teenage years in the early 90s. And it was just, it was taking over the world. Everybody was just completely enveloped and lost in the sauce, so to speak. Everyone was all about the hip-hop world, and I just did not gravitate toward it at all. I guess I couldn't relate much to hip-hop culture for obvious reasons. I'm just an idiot, white kid from small town Oregon, so you know, the concepts and the music and the stylings and the artistry and just the whole, you know, lifestyle and all of it. It just like, you know, I just don't understand any of it because I'm not immersed in it, and I didn't grow up immersed in it. So it didn't stop a lot of my idiot small town Oregon friends that, you know, just like have just been kind of just lapping, you know, happily lapping up every little bit and piece of hip hop culture for, you know, 30 years. There's just so little of it that I really find intriguing or endearing at all. So I'm gonna give it another college try, I guess you could say. And out of all the artists that were kind of like coming into the limelight in the 90s, which you could say the early 90s being like a serious heyday for modern, you know, hip hop and rap, this guy was one of the heavier hitters. And unfortunately, I think we just lost this guy, didn't we? Didn't he just die recently, maybe last year? But whatever. I remember seeing this shit on MTV, and I was like, okay, I kind of dig Snoop Dogg and Warren G and what Dr. Dre and what those guys were doing, because that was kind of like my era, and West Coast shit, you know what I mean? But this guy, I don't know if this was like West Coast shit or if this was East Coast shit, you know? It was way more like, it was fucking hardcore. I saw this shit on MTV and I was kind of like really taken aback and just like really intimidated and shit, because that's the kind of music that these guys were throwing in your face. This guy specifically, fucking DMX, dude. Remember DMX when that shit hit the fucking radio waves? It's just like, whoa, holy shit. This wasn't the first release, I don't believe. Of course, this was like 2003, so much later. What's this one called? Year of the Dog Again. So yeah, I'm gonna get familiarized with some fucking hardcore rap. And this one's a double disc too. So lots of material on here. Very cool. Oops, just dropped a disc. Yeah, should be cool. All right. There's enough of the stuff I really need to like try out here. This is more up my alley right here. Like you guys know how much of a dork I am. I'm a pretty serious dork, and this is just kind of like all ends of the dork spectrum for me, because I love music that's kind of like intrinsically dorky, and secondly, I'm also a huge fan of the holiday season being the Christmas season. I'm not a Christian by any way, in any way, shape, or form. I was raised in a Christian family, but I just love all aspects of the winter season, especially Christmas time. And so I love Christmas music. You guys can scroll down and you can see like, you know, a top 10 favorite, you know, Christmas time albums that I put on there. But the type of stuff I like I said, super nerdy. I'm not really big in like, you know, the big hits that you hear all over the radio all throughout the holiday season. That's not really my bag. I kind of almost turn the radio off during the holiday season, and really just like I have a pretty cool fucking collection of like classic Christmas stuff back here on vinyl, but I also buy a lot of CDs. So this is that label that I mentioned quite a bit when talking about my tinkle tunes and my dork music that I love. That label called Narada. Narada is like, you know, a new age / you know, electronic instrumental label that publishes all types of music, but it's really heavily influenced and injected with folk music from like Central and Eastern Europe, as well as far Western Europe and like the British Isles, Celtic folk music and stuff like that. And they all just kind of like do all these wonderful classic hymns and, you know, spiritual kind of like, you know, stuff from those regions in the world mixed up with like kind of the new age, you know, funky dorky sound. So stoked about this. Big old, again, double disc, tons of music, lots of Christmas shit. So I was really I was excited to find this for $1. Oh man, I found an awesome stack of like gems from my not childhood, but from my young adulthood, when I was kind of like coming into my own here. And this one was a huge part of it. And me and my friends, you know, talking like summer between probably what would have been my sophomore and junior year in high school. I went to summer drum camp a couple years, like in the early to mid 90s, where you just go and stay out in the woods for a week or so with drummers, and you learn how to do like, drum line, core drumming type of stuff. And this was the soundtrack to that summer, like summer 96. And this was blasting all throughout the camp out of our cabin. And everyone was just loving the shit out of it. Guys, remember Adam Sandler's album, What the Hell Happened to Me? Man, this guy was fucking funny. And yeah, there's a bunch of clever, funny tunes on here, maybe like 6 of them or 7 of them, but lots of hilarious skit comedy, all in between. And just starring everybody. I mean, Norm Macdonald and I think, David Spade and Kevin Nealon and just, dude, tons of names. I think like Judd Apatow did a bunch of stuff on here, and just all those classic, early 90s, Saturday Night Live guys and other, film and skit comedians and stand-up comics and shit. It's just fucking awesome album, dude. It's so hilarious. I haven't even seen a copy of this since the 90s, so I'm really excited to have it in my collection again. Another one from the kind of, from my youth, early teen years. This was just all over MTV. I loved it. Actually, and this was the first little bit of these guys that I ever heard. And in following years, I discovered their first album, which was, the one everyone talks about all the time, Appetite for Destruction. But Guns N' Roses, this was my first foray into the world of Guns N' Roses, November Rain and Bum Bum Bum. It covers that, was it Wings that did Live and Let Die? Or was it just McCartney? He did that when he was with Wings, right? But anyway, yeah, Live and Let Die. And yeah, like I said, November Rain, that shit was on the fucking radio like nonstop in 1992. So it's just everywhere. Yeah, I think this was like 91 or 92 probably, but I haven't had this for a long time, and I'll get a lot of kicks out of this. This is a good album. It's pretty good. This one, I don't know why I bought this. It's not really my style, but it's sealed, and when you come across CDs that are sealed, and this is just, this reminds me of my sisters. My sisters love this, and she's just, she was a good songwriter. She's all right. Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette. Hooray for, Canadian songstress, Alanis Morissette. She was, she was something else. She took the rock and roll world by storm. And remember that homeboy drummer man that just died? What's his name? The guy that was drumming for Foo Fighters. He just died too. He was her drummer in his early career. So, and yeah, like I said, it's sealed. I'll crack this open and give it a spin, and it'll bring back some pretty cool memories. So, everyone loves a little bit of Alanis Morissette every now and again, right? I liked it a lot more than the other kind of like female rock artists of that era of the early and mid 90s. I wasn't really into a lot of like all that other kind of like, punk stuff and like, hard rock stuff that Courtney Love and just, man, she's so gross. Courtney Love, ick. I'll take Alanis Morissette all day long over something like Hole, or whatever. This was my favorite CD find. I was stoked. I haven't had a copy of this for a long time. I actually used to have it on vinyl, like 10 years ago, probably. I don't know why I ever sold it. I fucking love these guys. They're so great. Moon Safari by Air. And I mean, notably, probably most people would say their best album. I don't know. I have another album of theirs that I really like a lot. I can't remember the name of it all the time. But yeah, having a copy of this in my collection as always. It's staple. It's really great. These guys are French, right? Oh yeah, it says right there, right under Air, it says French band. I'm sure there's, in history of rock and roll, there's been at least 3 bands called Air. I'm pretty sure. There was like another band that was like a British, like prog band, I think, called Air, right? Like in the 70s. Like a fusion kind of jazz prog band. But anyway, these guys, love the shit out of them. Love me some Air. These really great songsmiths. So them's my CDs, guys. All right, pretty cool day around here in Western Oregon. The weather's been nuts, man. It's like been pouring and hailing, and it's been 40 degrees, and now all of a sudden it's like back to being like 69 and sunny. Whatever. Weird stuff. Found some pretty cool cassette tapes too, guys. Let's check them out. Every time I come across something by Jim Croce, I get it. I love Jim Croce, but this is the greatest hits, so this will be awesome. I don't think I have anything right now in my collection by him, so this will be great to have, and a greatest hits I can throw in the work truck. When I go to the trips to the dump, and me and Jim Croce, we can listen to Bad Leroy Brown, and of course, Don't Mess Around with Jim. Just all his classic greatest hits. Love that guy. Great songwriter. This is an interesting find for me because it's actually a Huey Lewis and the News album that I am not familiar with at all. What's it called again? Picture This. 1982, I think it said. 1982. Picture This by Huey Lewis and the News. One that I am, like I said, not familiar with at all. So now I can get familiarized with it. Huge fan of the album Sports. I love the album Sports. And of course, I grew up in the 80s, so, the Back to the Future soundtrack, and, but again, like that album Sports, dude, that's just like, huge, like, guilty pleasure for me, and I'll spin the shit out of it. I love it dearly. Reminds me of a lot of good pieces of my childhood. This also, a lot of great pieces of my childhood. I love having a little bit of John Denver, especially greatest hits. All I have in my collection of John Denver, which I've talked about quite a bit because I really love that album. It's a perfect album to me. I feel it's a perfect album, which is Rocky Mountain High. I listen to it all the time, but I don't give it anything else a lot of spending time around, and I just haven't really had copies of anything else. So it's nice to have like a greatest hits that'll have like other tunes that I can get familiarized with by him, because I think he's a fantastic songwriter and singer. Have always loved John Denver. Another really cool one, every time I find something by Eric Clapton, I buy it, because when it comes to blues guitar, like, I'm not a huge fan of blues and blues rock and that type of stuff. I know I should be, right? But I'm just not really into it. But Eric Clapton's always an exception for me, especially this album, Slow Hand, which I see around all the time. Every time I find a copy of it on vinyl, in bargain bins, I buy it up and listen to it, and then usually, put it in the box to take to a record show, to sell at a record show. But, it's got fucking cocaine on it, and it's got, Wonderful Tonight. Everyone bags on that song. I think it's a great ballad. It's a great rock ballad, beautiful guitar work. Yeah, lots of really cool songs on here. Peaches and Diesel, that's a great fucking song. Yeah, stoked to find that. The last couple cassettes I found, again, in the spirit of trying new things. I mean, I know of, and, he was all over TV and all over the radio and stuff when I was growing up and in my early, childhood and early teen years. I remember seeing him on Saturday Night Live a bunch and just all kinds of stuff. Thought he was just such an eccentric kind of weirdo. Didn't really understand the music. I guess the music was kind of more for just, I don't know, the type of folks that appreciated and liked like the kind of new wave stuff that was coming around, but also the old style of rock and roll. And I don't know, I just don't really get this guy, and so I'm going to give him some more of a try. Just really not my generation, but yeah, Elvis Costello. I can respect what he does. He's pretty cool. I just always remember like this really interesting like scene of him, like when he was the musical guest on Saturday Night Live, way back when, probably must have been like, I don't know, 88, 89. And I'm watching this, and it's just like, you see Elvis Costello like start to play with his band, and like 30 seconds into the song, he's just like, stop, and starts like yelling at his band and like cutting his band off, and he's just like, all right, let's try that again, start over. And it was just like, what the fuck is going on? Who is this guy? I don't know if it was an act or if it was, I don't know. It was interesting, to say the least. So I'm gonna give me some Elvis Costello, put that in the player and give it some time. Interesting fucking cover. I've seen this around a bunch. Spike, the album's called. Whatever, kind of an interesting fella. And another one that's like super popular with a lot of people. I see these LPs everywhere. People buy this up. They've got kind of an interesting kind of a cult following. Like, I remember one guy like making fun of me because I loved Pearl Jam and like listened to Pearl Jam and like a few other things, and then he's like, oh, they're one of my, I hate those guys so much. They're like one of my least favorite bands of all time. But then he's like looking through my stuff and he's like, you got any Commander Cody? I'm like, okay, so fuck Pearl Jam, but to you, Commander Cody is like one of the greatest bands ever? Okay, whatever, dude. I mean, I don't know. I'll give it a try. I think I've heard bits and pieces here and there, and I'm just kind of like, all right, pretty run-of-the-mill 70s fucking, Southern rock. It's just really, I don't know, kind of cookie cutter, but I'll give it another try. Throw it in the work truck and listen to some Commander Cody. What's this album called? It's a live album, live from deep in the heart of Texas. There's a bunch of armadillos all over it. That looks pretty cool. All right. So, yeah, that's my cassette tapes, guys. Thanks again for hanging out with me this afternoon, folks. If you get a chance, head over to the old Instacrapple and, find me on Instagram. I'm Square the Circle Records on Instagram. Give me a shout out there. Some hearts and some likes and things. And, if you haven't yet, like and subscribe to my channel. Like all my videos. And share with a friend, share with a couple friends. So there's all that. I'll bring out my my vinyl records now that I found. I know that's really why you guys came here. I found a really, really cool pile of shit this week, guys. Not a lot of stuff, but the few selections that I did find were well worth the kind of ridiculously exorbitant prices we have to pay these days for used vinyl. It's like a lot of times the shit's thrashed, and like those junk stores, they don't care. Price tags are going on like now like $3.99. All these used records at junk stores, $4 a piece. So kind of disheartening, but it is what it is. And if anything, it's gonna keep me from going into those charity shops, and it's gonna force me back into the record store and digging through the bargain bins in the record store, which of course is something I should be doing anyway, right? But it used to be different because you could still find like pristine, cool records at your local record store for like, $3, $4, $5, $6, which is awesome. But then you wanted to go try to hunt and get better deals for like $1, for $2, and find like cool, rare shit. That's the fun in it. They're taking all the fun away from us, guys. When you're just like fishing through endless, dusty bins of shit, and like you have to pay like nearly full price for these selections. So whatever. I'll just start giving all my money back to the record store guys again. Okay, well, I'll quit babbling. Here's an interesting one that I found. First and foremost, anything I find on that Flying Fish label, I usually pick up because that's really up my alley. Like I said, I love dork music, and this is usually just like, super cool, folk mixed with, just kind of like folky Americana, lots of like, nerd sounds. Sometimes there's some, there's rarely any synthesizer stuff, but lots of other like auxiliary instruments that kind of make it like a little more fun and unique than just kind of your standard, folky, hippie shit out of the 70s and early 80s. And that's what Flying Fish was doing. There's like, who's on the Flying Fish? I think Mason Williams. Mason Williams put out a bunch of records on Flying Fish, and I think probably Leo Kottke did as well. But anyway, this guy is called David Mallet. I don't know anything about David Mallet, but yeah, the album is called Open Doors and Windows, just like early 80s, 1983. Yeah, it's going to be soft, subtle, cool stuff, acoustic guitar, fretless bass, electric piano, and then you read a little further down and you see, ooh, recorder and pan pipes, and you're like, yeah, this is totally my style. Fucking Hobbit music. Hobbit music for Hobbit people. That's me. Yeah, us hairy-footed, short little people will someday rule the earth again. That should be some fun for me. This one looked intriguing. I've never seen this before, and it looks to me like it's probably a movie soundtrack. I don't know, maybe so. I haven't read all of this yet, and so I ought to. Interesting song selection, but motherfucking Johnny Cash, dude, and Jerry Lee Lewis. I don't know who Carl Perkins is. Never heard of Carl Perkins, but yeah, electric guitar player, alongside Johnny Cash and Jerry Lee Lewis on the keys. So that should be interesting. The album's called The Survivors. So again, it looks like it's probably a film, a selection of songs from a film. I'm not entirely positive. It says right here, recorded live in Stuttgart, Germany. West Germany, to be specific. That was before the wall fell. Yeah, this was like 82. Didn't the wall? No, the wall came down in 89. Yeah, I remember watching that shit on TV. It was pretty intense, pretty cool. Yeah, this ought to be an interesting spin. I'm excited. And it's, you know, wicked clean. I'm not buying anything, especially if records are $4 at a junk store. I'm not going to buy anything that has any fucking scratches on it anymore. It's not worth it. Pretty cool. Here's one that's like, again, my style. Windham Hill Records. I love everything off the Windham Hill label. And this is like surprising because it's got to be one of their very, very first releases in the catalog of Windham Hill, because Windham Hill was kind of established very late 70s, 78 or 79, by, yeah, of course, William Ackerman, famed acoustic guitar player. And yeah, he started that label in, I believe, 79, and this was released in 79. The catalog number is 1009, so it's probably like the 9th release on that label, but it's his cousin, a man by the name of Alex DeGrassi. I love him. He's really, what do they say about him on here? Alex DeGrassi is an acoustic guitar impressionist. Yes, truly, an acoustic guitar impressionist. You really get a sense of just real vivid, you know, paintings being, displayed in front of your mind's eye, guitar elaborations. I love it. He's really fantastic, and especially too because it's really kind of off the beaten path. It's quite unique. It shows, it lays out the tracks that he does here and the length and duration and time, and then it also has a key code here, and it tells you what specific tuning he used for each specific track that he did and when it was recorded, all between 1975 and 1979. Really cool, some really interesting tunings, like some open E type stuff, and some stuff where his high E is tuned to a D and a D sharp. Really intriguing. So yeah, and I just have never listened to this album. Slow Circle, it's called. Really stoked. For a guy like me, I'm stoked to find this. Again, when you find Windham Hill records, they're always just completely immaculate because no one gives a shit about this type of music. Nobody cares. Everyone just tosses it aside. Oh, it's not fucking Led Zeppelin or whatever else. They just crap and just throw it away. So nobody cares. Pardon me, while I touch you guys in the face, I have a notification that I have to put away there. Okay. Silencing notifications. I forgot to do that. I don't know a ton about this guy. I've seen his records all over forever. Obviously, we all have. Interesting kind of blues rock mixed with kind of tinges of psych rock and prog, right? Yeah. Anyway, Robin Trower. I don't know a lot about Robin Trower, and I have heard a few of his selections from a few of his albums. I love the art on all of his studio releases, beautiful, captivating art, or just kind of like reminiscent of what you were seeing, electronic artists do of the 70s. Like the album cover reminds me of like Tangerine Dream albums and stuff like that. But anyway, this is a live album by him, Robin Trower, just called Live. That's it. Looks pretty fucking cool, pretty intriguing. I remember him being a really smoking guitar player. So really excited to dig into this one. Pretty damn good shape. I think it's a little beat up in parts, just kind of ring wear. No real big deal. Some idiot wrote their name on it, but it is what it is. I'm excited to give this a spin. So, some classics. Getting familiar with the classics again, boys and girls. Okay, so this is kind of beating a dead horse here. I've shown this album many times already. But this is one of those albums. Every time I come across a copy of this, I have to double check it to see how clean it is. And guys, dude, this is the cleanest copy of this shit I have ever found. Original pressing in the wild. It's absolutely immaculate. It's near mint. I would say excellent to near mint. Besides just this one corner right here that's just like, you know, it's just barely frayed. Of course, Herb Alpert's whipped cream and other delights. Dude, look at it. Shimmering and shining. An absolutely immaculate copy. So every time I come across this, I've never seen one this clean in the wild. Pretty excited. So of course, I'll replace the one in my collection with this one, and the other one will go in the boxes for the record show. I just love this. It's such, you know, probably one of the most famed records of all time. I think the music's fantastic. I don't buy it just because of the big titty broad on the cover. I really like this album a lot. This is really the only Herb Alpert that I really dig. Good shit. Oh, guys. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I found this is kind of the creme de la creme here for the week for me, because you know how when you're digging, sometimes you find a vein, like a gold vein, you know, and you crack it open and you're just like, oh, my God, I found just like a little chunk of shit. Somebody got rid of an old collection, or maybe somebody's family member died or something like that. Stuff that was just like literally untouched, totally untouched, and remained that way for 40 years. And then they just got donated. And now I have it. And I got like a small handful of just all kinds of dope, like Atlantic, early 70s jazz records, like jazz, fusion, funk, stuff like that. Dude, I got this Dave Brubeck. What does it say? 2 generations of Brubeck? Yeah, 2 generations of Brubeck. I'm assuming that these are his children. But yeah, the immortal, you know, Dave Brubeck. Look at this dude. Look at him. It's fucking so clean. It's in absolutely perfect condition. You know, and then you just crack this open with the original insert and everything that was going on in 1971, I think, 73, when this was released. And just that stark, beautiful green and orange Atlantic label, and everything's just pristine, and it's just heavy, and it smells delicious, and you're just like, I love it. It just kind of makes you shake. You're just like, wow. Beautiful, clean, pristine Atlantic records. Cool Jazz by Dave Brubeck. Super stoked about that. Gets even better, guys. I've talked about how I'm a drummer, and of course he's the legend, the king of jazz drumming, Buddy Rich, on the Verve label. Buddy Rich Big Band Shout. Cool fucking art. I love that. You know, whatever infrared style, orange, you know, photography there. And again, you crack it open, original Verve inner sleeve, and it's just, oh my God. Yes. I win. I win. Fucking stoked, dude. So fucking cool. It was just absolutely immaculate. Really excited to spin this one. Again, homeboy, whoever, homegirl, whoever donated these records or whatever happened was probably a drummer, obviously a big lover of jazz and fusion jazz, but probably a drummer as well. This one, I discovered this album back when I was like in my late 20s when I started collecting records again. And I remember this name because he was mentioned, one of my favorite drummers from the 90s that I grew up learning how to play the drums to was Carter Buford, the drummer from Dave Matthews Band. And he always said that one of his biggest inspirations growing up and learning how to drum was this man, motherfucking Billy Cobham, and the album Crosswinds. So this is one, I've had this album many times. I've never had one that is in excellent condition, besides maybe just this very minor bit of ring wear. Everything else is just perfect condition. Absolutely perfect. This album's so fucking good, guys. Billy Cobham is the shit. He did a lot of the arrangements and writing himself, was notorious for that. Incredible composer and arranger and drummer, multi-instrumentalist. He played a lot of stuff. Really stoked again. It's just awesome vein of just like killer classic Atlantic stuff from the early 70s. So excited. This one was a fun little brief respite from, you know, seeing just kind of like cool you know, rock records and jazz records and stuff. And it's just like, I know the name. I grew up on a lot, you know, we had comedy playing in our household all the time when I was growing up. We were allowed to watch Saturday Night Live, you know, in the 80s. And we watched all the old stuff too, all the old reruns and the, you know, the episodes that they would do, highlighting stuff from like the last decade or whatever. Oh, my phone's ringing. I'm just gonna let that go. Please pardon me while my work phone's ringing. Yeah, anyway, we had comedy growing up in our house all the time, and I didn't know anything about this guy, but I love this like hilarious picture. It's Flip Wilson. What's it called? Cowboys and Colored People. Yikes. A little tongue in cheek, just kind of like, times have changed. Hilarious art though. And yeah, like I said, we would sit around and listen to Steve Martin records and Robin Williams records and, you know, whatever else, dude. Bill Cosby and just all of it. Of course, mom and dad would wait till we go to bed to spin the Cheech and Chong and the George Carlin, but for real? Some bill collectors? So obnoxious. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. But yeah, again, I just can't turn this stuff away when it's just like absolutely immaculate. And I'll put this on and get a bunch of laughs, I'm sure. I'm sure it's fantastic. So, pretty cool. Okay, guys, getting down to the last couple here. Again, this is one of those albums that it means so much to me. And like when I come across copies of it in the wild and you find one that's just like perfectly mint, you can't pass it up, even though you have it in your collection already. But this one's especially meaningful to me. I've talked about this before, and how I feel about it. And I truly feel that this is one of the most instrumental and inspirational and most important records ever created when talking about the inception, the birth of progressive rock, when psychedelia and modern rock started to kind of like really branch out and take some really interesting, innovative, new concepts and ideas, and just kind of, you know, this is style I'm talking like a little bit pre-Canterbury, you know, like a little bit before your King Crimson and your, you know, the Pink Floyd and whatever else was going on in the UK at that time. And I feel that this was just truly the kind of the beginning of all that, as far as art rock and what became progressive rock. These guys were the beginning of all that. And so every time I come across a copy of Days of Future Past by the Moody Blues, you got to look twice and you got to like look good, because I have never come across a copy this clean. This is just absolutely immaculate. Original, Darum label, everything. It's like it's been just sitting for 60 years and nobody had paid any attention to it, never touched it, never even looked at it. Just sat on a shelf for for 55 years. And now it's mine. I have in my collection right now, I have a copy. It's like a 1982 reissue, but it's a Japanese reissue. It's really cool. It's got like, in place of this white label here, it's got a very stark red label. It looks really cool with the original art. You know, it's got an obi strip and everything. And now I can compare and contrast, and I really like doing that, you know. I've had multiple copies of like a lot of my favorite artists, like some of my Yes albums, like my favorite Yes albums, I have like 3 copies. You know, I have like the Steven Wilson remaster of a bunch of them, and I have, for a while I had some I came across a chunk of German pressings in a junk store for $2 a piece. Like I found like, is it Yes Stage? Yes Story. The 1980 double album, the live double album. Anyway, found a German pressing of that, a German pressing of Relayer, and a German pressing of Going for the One, all at the junk store in immaculate condition. And so now I have those and the Steven Wilson, and then a few of them I have like the original US first release, you know, just so I can like compare and contrast. And honestly, a lot of times, because like that's kind of what I was introduced to listening to, I like the original US presses of a lot of this stuff. And so I don't know, I'm excited to see now like what this sounds like as compared to like an 80s reissue of a Japanese depressing, but like I said, finding like near mint copies of this is pretty special, pretty cool. All right, guys, down to the last one. I was so excited about this because I've seen this before so many times, just around town, at record shows, and just everywhere. And I've always been, you know, captivated by the cover art, and I've just never taken a chance on it. So now I can take a chance on it for just a couple bucks. And again, one of those that's just like absolutely near mint, beautiful, and this is really popular, you know, kind of soul jazz, funk, fusion kind of stuff. That group called Dreams. The album self-titled. I don't know anything about this, so I'm going into it completely blind, and I'm really excited. So that was my super find right there, guys. I know that it's sought after and it's cool. It's on that red Columbia label. 100% near mint. I got so lucky, guys. So stoked. What a great week it was for junk store record hunting. So there it is, guys. There's all my my junk store finds for the week. Thanks again for joining me. Sorry about all the distractions and all the weird sounds coming from my house. It's like middle of the day here, and I'm just like on my lunch break, and wanted to do a quick vid for you guys. So yeah, that's all I got for you. Be good to each other. Be good to yourself. Peace be with you, and see you guys on the flip side.